What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Gamer Logic. I am the guru of gaming, Mike Murtis, and today we are covering Double Dragon for the Neo Geo. And before we get into the Neo Geo CD game, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of Double Dragon, at least my personal history with it. Now, this is the original Double Dragon. This was released on the NES version. It differs from the arcade version in certain stances. The arcade version was like 2 players. It was just a straightforward beat 'em up, and kind of paved the way for Final Fight and Streets of Rage and other games like that. And the NES version differed because it had more like an experience system. You could only start out with like a punch and kick, and the more you beat up enemies with more techniques, you would gain an additional star and you'd have some new attack method, and by the end of the game you were pretty powerful. It was a good game, I really enjoyed it. And another kind of personal history thing is I got my NES when I was 5 years old, and the first game my dad decided to rent me was Double Dragon. And he brought it home, and I saw the front of it, and I don't know why, I thought it was the Karate Kid, which if you guys are familiar with it, in the 80s, the Karate Kid, probably like Part 1, Part 2, was really popular back during that time. And it was on HBO like every 15 minutes, which isn't even really possible, but that's besides the point. Anyways, I thought it was Karate Kid, so, you know, I turned it on and played it like, oh, okay, it's Karate Kid, he's fighting, you know, the Cobra Clan and all that stuff, and I'm playing through and I'm wondering, where the hell's Mr. Miyagi? It wouldn't be till probably a year later, when I actually rented the real Karate Kid video game, that I wished that Double Dragon was the Karate Kid, or I wished Karate Kid was Double Dragon, because the Karate Kid was not a good game by any means. So, just a little history on that. But Double Dragon had a lot of sequels to it. It had 2 more games on the NES for a trilogy. It had a release on the Super Nintendo, the Genesis. It was on various portable systems. It made a return to next-gen systems on an Xbox Live Arcade release. And it spawned a movie. And the movie, to be absolutely honest with you, I'm sure it was bad, but I can't remember it because it was so long ago when I watched it. I think I was pretty disappointed with it. But the movie came out and pretty much sucked in the US, and I'm sure most other regions. And Neo Geo, the company Technos, decided, you know, they had the license to the Double Dragon games, and they decided that they were going to make a fighting game based off the Double Dragon movie. And I think the last fighting game that came out prior to that was Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls, which was based on the comic series, and that was absolutely terrible too. So I'm sure a lot of people saw this was coming out and said, wow, this is going to suck. I picked this up when I was at the Midwest Gaming Classic and started playing it, and I think I've also played this on MAME a couple of times. This is a really, really fun fighting game. It takes more character-based from the actual games and a little bit of the movies, and it puts all their different fighting techniques in and puts different stages in, and just does a really cool interpretation of the Double Dragon universe into a fighting game. Far better than Double Dragon 5. Let's start with the graphics. The graphics are excellent. They're your standard 2D SNK graphics, which back for its time was pretty amazing. The characters are highly animated. The backgrounds are awesome. A lot of the characters, when they actually come into the playing field, have some kind of neat introduction. Like one guy may come off a helicopter and have it crash, or a boat may smash into a building and the opposing character jumps in. So they made it very interactive. So very top-notch graphics. Sound-wise, sound effects are decent. Music, it's hit or miss. There's the general tracks that play in the background, and it's kind of like a jazzy fusion type of music. And if you're playing as either Billy or Jimmy Lee and you morph into your alternate power or alternate skin, it plays the Double Dragon theme. And the Double Dragon theme was awesome back in the NES days, and you know, still to this day, many people on like Overclock Remix has redone it, and it's a cool theme. It just feels weird. It sounds weird on the Neo Geo CD when it gets in. It's just not very faithful to the original. But other than that, the music is decent. It's passable, if anything. Control. Control with the Neo Geo CD. I happen to have one of the controllers that has kind of the clicky joypad, which many people don't like. I personally don't mind it, and I find that I was able to pull off attacks very easily. The 4 buttons work nicely, and it controls very, very well. So another plus on the control there. Again, the amount of fighters and stuff that you can choose from are unique, and the combat is fun. I really enjoyed this game. So if you have an emulator, or you happen to have Neo Geo CD, or you have access to MAME, check out Double Dragon. It's a lot of fun. Another little note here about Double Dragon, there was actually a sequel released for it. Unfortunately, the company that made it lost the rights to Double Dragon, so they created a sequel called Rage of the Dragons that kind of had the same character basis as everything. They just changed the names and stuff like that. It's another good game, but it has a weird combo system. But all in all, if we have to go back to Double Dragon here, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. I'm not going to give it a complete rating because, again, the music in certain areas is passable and not really faithful to the original Double Dragon sound. But for being a game based off a movie that probably sucked as bad as I think it did, this is a surprisingly great game, and I highly recommend you pick it up. 4 out of 5 stars. I'm Mike Murtis. This has been another episode of Gamer Logic. Make sure you comment, subscribe, and rate. I truly appreciate it. Take it easy, folks. See you soon.